Everyone, welcome along, and it's our weekly mindset fix. Thanks for everyone that's joining us. As most people know, Suzie is with us every single week, and she kind of focuses on a different topic each week for 20-25 minutes or so. Answers some questions at the end if anyone kind of has anything that they want to kind of talk about. This week is all about perfection and perfectionism. So I think it's something that a topic that everyone can pretty much relate to. So as always, over to you, Suzie. Great to have you on board, and looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thank you so much, Paul. As always, I love doing these mindset webinars. It's always so great to add value. Yeah, perfectionism is a big one, and it was the subject of my newsletter last week, and it was really amazing to see the responses I got from people in terms of their replies via email. I got tagged in on LinkedIn, and I definitely see it's something that's quite common in the assistant role. And I have to say, for me, I'm a recovering perfectionist. But let me just do a brief introduction to who I am for those of you that might be new today. And also just to let you know that we just were playing around with the time. We shifted it to 12 o'clock because we want to see whether that will work better for people. So if you feel it works better for you than 11 o'clock, please do let us know. We want to make sure that we can support you and get the most people online as possible so that we can inspire and educate you. But my name is Suzie from Suzie Flynn Coaching. I'm an ex-personal executive assistant of 22 years. Makes me feel really old when I say that. Working in corporate London. And in May 17, after having a major mountain bike accident, I started moving forward with building my business. And I now work as a mindset coach and business mentor for executive assistants who want to build a thriving virtual assistant business. So if you want to find out more about me, then please connect with me. I'd love to have you in my network. So this week's talk is how to ditch perfectionism and still achieve great results. Now, as I mentioned briefly, I am a recovering perfectionist. I think it was more so in my 20s. I felt that I had to get everything perfect. And I decided at some point to retake my history GCSE because on the day of the exam, I'd got the time wrong, and it was actually in the morning, and I thought it was in the afternoon. So it was a very hurried, panic, rush to the school with my dad waking me up and very messy hair. So I later decided to retake my history GCSE, and I worked really hard on it. I wrote about my local cathedral in St Albans, and I remember doing 2 specific written papers, and I got an A for one, which obviously I was really pleased about, and a B for the other. But the overall result for that GCSE was a B. And I can still remember to this day my reaction and my thought process to that. And I was sitting with a friend saying, I got a B. She's like, it's great, you've done really well. I said, no, but it's not good enough. I could have got an A. It didn't seem perfect in my mind. And it wasn't that a B wasn't good enough. It was basically that I saw myself as not good enough. I was putting so much pressure on myself to be perfect, to please other people effectively. And I just ultimately didn't feel that I was good enough. But let's be honest here, okay? Perfectionism does not exist, okay? We are all perfectly imperfect, okay? And what I say is, what is one person's imperfection is another person's perfection. I'd say put hands up because I can't see all the videos, or pop in the chat here and let me know who has ever had bouts of, falling into that perfectionism. Or are you still in a perfection? Like Paul's put his hand up straight away. Yeah, who's still at the moment every day? So Shelley's saying at the moment every day she's a perfectionism. Okay. So I'd love to hear as we go through how that perfectionism is affecting you on a daily basis. How is it affecting your emotional and mental well-being? Because effectively, when we are trying to be, that's what we do. We try to be perfect because it doesn't exist. And we beat ourselves up when we get to the end result and we're like, oh, we didn't get what we wanted. We focus so much on the outcome that we don't actually enjoy the process. So I've got some comments in here. Shelley's saying every day at the moment, most days, hi me, but not anymore. And that's great, Marie. In fact, you'd like to share about how you overcame that in a few words. Ian said far too often. Shelley's saying not enough sleep, second guessing everything. And Vera, a completer, finisher, what do you mean by that? Because you can complete and finish things, but they don't have to be perfect. And I want to share this really powerful quote, which I absolutely love. It's from a book called The Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. So if you haven't read it already, I'd highly recommend it. Anita saying sometimes striving towards perfection can lead to not feeling like we are enough. Yes, it is. And I'll talk more about that later. So the quote from Big Magic simply says, no matter how many hours you spend attempting to render something flawless, somebody will always be able to find fault in it. Really powerful. I love that quote. And it goes to show that, you know, what is one person's perfection is someone else's imperfection. We can't achieve perfection. We can strive for our best and we can have high standards. You know, I was an assistant for 22 years. Having high standards is great. But if you're sitting there every day going, it could have been better, I should have done this, it's effectively a form of self-bullying. It's time to be kinder to yourself and accept that you are doing the best that you can with the knowledge that you have. So Nita says sometimes strive it. Yeah, I read that one. Perfect. Okay, so I want to share a concept with you that you may be familiar with, you may not. Who has heard, and pop in the chat box, who has heard the phrase done is better than perfect? Let me know in the chat box and let me, you know, Paul's having a little, I can see Paul's always on my screen when I do this. So Alexa's saying that she has, Eva's saying no, okay, great. LQ282EV, I'm sure that's not your name. No, Shelley has, Marie hasn't. No, I haven't heard this. Okay, so we've got some people that have and some people that haven't. Okay, so done is better than perfect is effectively what it says on the tin. It's accepting that, you know, you have to reach an endpoint, that it's just getting it out there. I could have literally spent hours on this webinar. I could have been spending hours making sure I had the right background, the right backdrop, the right top. You know, I could have perfected my makeup. I could have just spent more time making sure that the content and the quality of what I deliver was absolutely perfect. But if I did that, I wouldn't be here because I'd still be working on this webinar. So sometimes we have to let go of that badge of perfectionism, which is often what more women than men have. And I think it's quite common in the assistant role. And I know there's probably a few assistants, I know there's at least one, but has anyone got thoughts on the link with perfectionism and the assistant role? Has anyone got any thoughts on that? Paul, please share your own thoughts as well. But the fact of the matter is that we need to let go of that badge of perfectionism and just put ourselves out there. Done is better than perfect. And just learn from the experience, like what didn't go well, what did go well, and what can you learn from that experience? What can you take away? Because when we are, as I said before, when we are trying to be perfect and we don't achieve those results, we feel disappointed on ourselves. And we berate ourselves, we're overcritical, and it ultimately comes back to us beating ourselves up and saying that we are not good enough. That is not true. You know, we have been programmed our whole lives from our early childhood years with certain beliefs. But when we do the mindset work, we can start to shift those beliefs. And one of the biggest beliefs that we all carry around on a subconscious level is that I am not enough. Okay, so that is not true. So perfectionism can be the enemy of progress. So is this concept useful, that done is better than perfect, just getting yourself out there and just learning from the experience? Because at the end of the day, we can't reach perfectionism because it doesn't exist, okay? So I want to talk a little bit more about the difference between perfectionism and striving for your best. Now, perfectionism looks like, and I know Shelley mentioned it, like second guessing everything, working really, really hard, not taking enough breaks, working longer hours. You know, the language that you use in terms of what you're saying. She's like, oh, this is not good enough, I could have done better, I should have got an A instead of a B, this isn't good enough. And it's just self-bullying at the end of the day. So perfectionism is never being happy with the outcome, because you always think that you could do better. Whereas having high standards is more about striving for your best, and just putting yourself out there, striving for your best, and knowing that, the work that you deliver is enough, that effectively you are enough. Okay, so what you have to deliver is enough. So I hope you find this concept useful, because there is a fine line. We can keep working on stuff thinking it's perfect, and then how do we feel when someone comes along and critiques it, and we're like, oh, it's not so perfect. Perfect is an internal thought process. It's not, it's not external, it's what we are telling ourselves in our mind. So I want to share another quote this time. It's from Brené Brown. Who has heard of Brené Brown or read any of Brené's books? I've read one of them, but she's a great author, but I do have a long reading list. So Brené says that perfectionism is not about healthy achievement and growth. Perfectionism is not the same as striving to be your best. So again, she just talks about what I talked about, that striving for your best and striving for perfectionism are two different things. When you strive for your best, you know that there's an end point. When you're striving for perfectionism, there's never an end point, because you're never happy enough with what you deliver. So another quote by Elizabeth Gilbert, which says, underneath that shiny veneer, perfectionism is nothing more than a deep existential angst that says again and again, I am not enough, and I will never be good enough. Okay, so who relates to that quote about from Elizabeth Gilbert about not feeling enough? So let me just check in the comments. Anita said recently read Daring Greatly. I've heard of that book, Nita, but I've not actually read it. Honestly, I have so many books on my reading list, and I try and go through a week, but sometimes I get a little bit behind. Shelley's talked about striving for your best and wanting perfection will always get confused. Perfection will never be reached. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and Shelley, you're spot on, because what is perfection? It's in the eye of the beholder. It's in our own mind what we deem as perfect. So Eva said on occasions. Anita says smiley face regarding Brené Brown. So let me ask you some questions about perfectionism. Okay, so I've got them listed here, so I'm going to read them out. How is let me start that again. How is perfectionism hurting you? So you can write these questions down, and also please pop in the chat box your answer to these questions. It just can be a one-liner, it doesn't have to be anything deep. But how is perfectionism, where's my notes? How is perfectionism hurting you? Okay, how is perfectionism hurting you? I'd love to know. And how could perfectionism stop you achieving your goals or the results you want? How could perfectionism stop you from reaching the goals or desires that you want to achieve? I remember years ago, a guy I was dating, he talked about a friend of his who was creating a video game, and it all sounded amazing, and the ex at the time was going to create some music to go along with the video game. And I said, oh, great, this sounds amazing. I said, how long has your friend been working on this video game for? He's like, oh, about 3 years. I was like, why has he never published it? He's like, he doesn't think it's good enough. Okay, he was waiting for perfectionism. He wasn't striving for his best, and because of that, he didn't get it out there. He didn't adopt the approach done is better than perfect. And if he put it out there and got some good and bad reviews, he could have learned what worked well and what didn't work well. So I think it's very easy to get attached to the outcome. Yeah, I love what you say, Michelle. Perfectionism makes you feel inadequate because you feel that you've never reached your goal. You focus so much on the outcome that you don't actually focus on the journey. You don't get to enjoy the journey. You don't spend time in the present moment. And then you feel inadequate, disappointed, upset, sad, etc. Then you didn't achieve what you wanted to achieve. Jada says, I don't branch out into new things because I won't be good at them immediately, and I don't like producing subpar work. That even applies to my hobbies. Okay, my notes down. Sorry, guest appearance. But how is that holding you back, Jade? So how is not starting new things? What if you started new things and just practice them, because none of us start things and everything's perfect. Think about a little toddler. When they start to learn to walk, they don't walk and run straight away. They make so many mistakes. They don't sit there and go, well, I can't start because I might fail. Lots of toddlers sitting on their bums. It can be exhausting. Yeah, it has made me feel inadequate in the past. Perfection makes me place unfair expectations on those around me. Perfectionism affects badly my self-esteem. Exactly. I'll go back to the comments because we're about 15 minutes in, and I kind of want to go on and talk more about the physiology and the mindset around perfectionism. So when we are in that mode of perfectionism, we are, as I say, we're bullying ourselves. And when we are trying to be perfect, get everything done at such a high standard, it creates stress and it creates overwhelm. And it becomes difficult for our mind, our brain, to really focus, to be productive. Okay, what actually happens in the body when you're pushing yourself really hard and you're focusing so much on perfectionism is that your body starts to produce adrenaline, okay, which is the chemical that's produced when you go into fight and flight. It's a stress response. But when we're in adrenaline, because we're being too critical of ourselves in terms of what we believe we can achieve or can't achieve, then actually we're less productive, because our body's preparing to get into the fight and flight stage, run, freeze, etc. It doesn't serve us. And I talked about this in my newsletter last week. But when we actually come back to the present moment and just connect with all our senses, like what we feel, what we hear, what we see, what we might smell or taste, and be grateful for what we are experiencing, then, and practicing the gratitude, then actually what happens in our body is we start to produce serotonin. Okay, so the stress response dies down and we get out of that fight and flight. We can become much more focused and much more productive, and we become kinder to ourselves. So coming back to that present moment, moving away from running on adrenaline and moving into producing more serotonin is fantastic, because it helps you get more focused, more productive. You feel happier in yourself. So when you run off adrenaline, you put yourself under pressure to be perfect, to achieve that goal. And as I've talked about before, and I know it's been said in the chat, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. You might get angry or annoyed with yourself. None of us are perfect. And of course, there's sometimes that I push myself too hard, and I set myself a goal in my business last month that I didn't achieve. And initially I started getting annoyed, but instead I chose to look at what I could take away, and I chose to look at the process instead. So another thing I want to say about when we get into stress due to the words and the thoughts and the images we're feeding ourselves and the pressure we're putting ourselves under. When we go into adrenaline, okay, what happens in our body is it needs a recovery time. And our body recovers when we sleep, okay? So if you think of the body like a battery, and every time you go into that stress, that overwhelm, and that adrenaline is running through your body, then your body needs more time to recover, okay? So if you're constantly running off adrenaline because you're pushing yourself so hard and you're insisting that you have to be perfect, then the body needs more and more rest. And ultimately, if you have a pattern of this, long term in your life, it can ultimately lead to a long-term chronic illness, or it can affect your emotional and mental health. So let me just check the comments because they're backing up a bit now. So Danielle's, here we go. What we got? So Jay said, perfection makes you feel inadequate. Analysis paralysis. Yeah, exactly. Done is better than perfect. Just take action. Mel Robbins talks about taking action in the first 5 seconds before your brain intercepts and starts telling you all the reasons why you can't do it, because it has to be perfect, etc. Shirley said, it's not just affecting my working life because we are working from home now. I feel more pressure to have everything perfect at home. It's not great. Okay, so how can you let this go, Shirley? What can you do? What one thing can you do? Done is better than perfect, and put that into practice and reflect on it, and what did you learn? Like, trust me, no one will die. Everyone, you know, the world will keep turning, but until we put this into practice, our body doesn't get used to that experience. So teach it a new experience and adopt the approach that done is better than perfect. Eva Marie says it's exhausting. It has in the past made me feel inadequate. Yeah, totally. It is exhausting. You're constantly putting pressure on yourself to be perfect. It affects your self-esteem, your happiness, your overall joy in life. So I just want to go back to the adrenaline. So when we're running off adrenaline, so you're feeling disappointed, and what you're doing is effectively you're creating neural pathways in your brain. So it's learning new behaviors. So it will learn, oh, okay, so you're going to work really hard, you're going to push yourself to perfectionism, you're going to run off adrenaline, then you're going to feel exhausted, and then you're going to feel disappointed, and you're going to need 3 days of, you know, like really good night's sleep to recover. But actually during the day, because you've still not had enough sleep, you're going to feel exhausted at your desk working on your tasks. So you get yourself into a little bit of a cycle. So instead, what you want to do is create the neural pathways of stepping back into gratitude, stepping back into the present moment, and recognizing your achievements, recognizing what you have done, and recognizing that what you've done is enough. Okay, and when we do this, we create a different neural pathway, which is gratitude and serotonin equals, you know, joy and happiness. Okay, and you get more hits of serotonin. Okay, so what else did I want to talk about? So yeah, I wanted to give you an example, not so much of perfectionism, but it's linked to perfectionism, about how staying in the present moment and practicing gratitude can really shift you out of those feelings of disappointment and low self-esteem, etc. So I think it was last week now, I had to take my mountain bike to the bike shop because the tires were flat. And the thoughts that started going through my mind were, but I have such a busy day. I have so much to do. I have X, Y, and Z to do. And I felt, again, under pressure because I was trying to create the perfect day, which involved getting X, Y, and Z done in my business. And I found going to the bike shop an inconvenience. So I became aware of my thoughts. And I started telling myself, what can I be grateful for in the moment? So I started walking along with my bike with its flat tires, and I started to enjoy the exercise, the fresh air. I was grateful that on the way back I got to cycle because I love cycling, that I could pick up my favourite Yorkshire tea, that there's a bike shop that's only half an hour away from me, that it's not even further away. So when I did come back and carry on my day, I felt so much calmer. I didn't feel under pressure. Okay, so perfectionism can cause pressure, and just being hard on yourself can cause pressure for you. So I wanted to share that with you. Lastly, just because I'm going to wrap up now, I want to share another quote, which was a really interesting one. And again, it was in the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. Honestly, I'm not an affiliate for the book. I promise I'm not getting commission. It's just such a great book. I do recommend you read it. Such an easy read as well. And she writes in it about, we all spend our 20s and 30s trying so hard to be perfect, because we're so worried about what people will think of us. And then we get into our 40s and 50s and we finally start to be free, because we decide that we don't give a damn what anyone else thinks about us. But you won't be completely free, because until you reach your 60s and 70s, when you finally realize this liberating truth, nobody was ever thinking about you anyhow. And I just love that quote, because perfectionism is ultimately about pleasing others, about feeling good enough, about, you know, being the best version of ourselves, about approval from others. We are enough. We are all enough already the way we are. So you don't need to please others. Just done is better than perfect. Okay, love yourself and love others unconditionally, and know that you don't have to attach the outcome to your worth. If something's not perfect, or what seems perfect in your mind, this doesn't need to be attached to your self-worth. So let me just go back and read the comments. So Danielle has said, I started working on a blog and kept on telling myself it's never ready to publish. So just told myself it's never going to be perfect because it's always evolving. Okay, Danielle, so you are evolving, but the blog it can go, okay? It's that, I get a sense that it's that kind of fear of judgment or failure. Get it out there. Done is better than perfect. And remember that you can learn from your experiences. Take time to enjoy the process and let go of the outcome. Okay, let go of the outcome, because your worth is not attached to the outcome. So I'd love to see that blog. Publish it in our group. We'd love to see your blog. So perfectionism at times makes me dwell on the imperfections. Yeah, so we are all imperfectly perfect. It's about accepting that we are enough, but that is a huge topic in itself, really, isn't it? I think it's something that we all still work with. Lydia said, struggle to make important decisions. It can lead to frustration, worry, isolation, anxiety, depression, and a persistent sense of failure and struggling to make important decisions in other parts of one's life. Again, Lydia, this is where I see people putting themselves under so much pressure. Just take small, simple steps towards making a decision. Done is better than perfect. Let that action be imperfectly perfect, because at the end of the day, we are all imperfectly perfect. And when we see other people's flaws, it helps us recognize that, we have our flaws too. We are all human and we are all doing the best that we can. So Michelle said, you are so right. What a great statement. I need to remember this statement. I don't know which one it was, Michelle. If you let me know, I can what I'll do is I'll pop a post into the group with the statements I've shared from the books so that you can reflect on that. The book is called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. Again, I will add a link to the book. So Lydia said, love that statement. Shelley said, lovely words, must try and remember this. Yeah, don't worry. If I've shared anything, as Paul knows, I pop it in the group because I want to make sure we all get enough value. And Shelley, you are right. We are all enough, but it's when we do the subconscious work and shift like the energy in our system, in our energy system, that we start to believe in ourselves. That we are not enough, or we are enough is huge. It's absolutely huge. And it's I refer to things like an onion, like peeling back the layers of an onion. So you keep peeling back the layers of the onion, and then underneath you find something else, and you find more things to uncover and work through. Yes, we are all enough. Fantastic statement. We are. I spent my childhood thinking, I didn't have the confidence or self-belief. And it's my mission, my passion to help assistants and women, people all across the world, to know that they are enough, to know that they are perfectly imperfect. They are enough just the way they are. So Lydia said, we are all enough. Jade said, Pillay, Belay, the book is, Big Magic. Hi Pillay, I didn't even see you on here. I know you're a regular, which is great. She follows me everywhere, Pillay. She's like one of my raving fans. Danielle said, thanks, I already published this week. Amazing, that's fantastic. And how did it feel to publish it? Was it as bad as you thought it might be? You're welcome, Lydia. And Michelle said, done is better than perfect. So I'm going to share a link to my, hi Billy, no worries. I'm going to share a link to my newsletter. I do a weekly newsletter, a weekly mindset newsletter every Friday, goes out at 7. So if you're not already on there, please do subscribe. I know Pilly's on there. She loves it. Need to refer to Marissa Peer. Oh, I love Marissa. She's a fantastic person to follow, view on social media and YouTube. Yes, absolutely. Marissa's main message is that you are enough, and I will echo that. You are enough, but it takes more than me just saying it to you. You have to do the mindset work, even if it means working with someone, a coach, a mentor, Marissa Peer, someone. So it really is very inspirational. So what have been people's key takeaways from what I have delivered today? I would love to know. So pop in the chat box, what was one of your key takeaways from today's session? What did you learn? Did you find it useful? Is there anything that inspired you, or something that was new or surprised you? So Eva Maria said, telling us all that you have, it helps to make me realise one doesn't have to be over worried. Enough is acceptable. Yeah, you're just striving for your best, Eva Maria, and that is enough. The statement, done is better than perfect. Yeah, such a great one, isn't it? It's so simple, but it's something that often we forget, okay, because we put pressure on ourselves. So Nita said, keep learning from previous experiences, keep going and avoid dwelling on perfectionism. Wow, amazing. Thank you so much. More comments. Pilly says, I have listened to many, and Suzie is someone you can take many tips away from. Others are very complicated, you can't engage with. As Paul knows, I like to make it interactive and fun and genuine, and you know, I share my own journey. You know, I'm not perfect, of course. I have my own struggles now, in the past, and I will in the future, but you know, I work my way through them. Michelle, you have made me really think, and you are great something, and that statement I really need to keep in my head. Really good, Suzie. Thank you. You're welcome, Shelley. Jenny said, great session. I'm a work in progress, a recovering perfectionist. Thank you to Suzie's sessions. We are all work in progress. We always will be, because at the end of the day, there's no such thing as perfectionism. We are all work in progress, and once we accept that, it makes the life so much easier. Nita said, lovely session. I'm going to hand back over to Paul. I'm going to drop in the link again to the newsletter if anyone wants to sign up to it. It comes out Friday at 7 o'clock. Over to you, Paul.
Fantastic. I mean, what more can I say? I think the comments says it all. Look at that. It's brilliant, isn't it? I mean, each week we've been doing these things, and you know, every week, especially for this session, there seems to be so much engagement, lots of people chatting between themselves, helping each other out. This is exactly the essence of what we've been trying to achieve. And thanks everybody for all your comments, for what Suzie's been doing, because as everybody knows, Suzie's been with us since day one. So she has been really instrumental to this group. So each week I kind of sit here and think, oh, okay, this is the best one yet, and it's kind of, kind of going and going. So it's fantastic. So thank you as always, Suzie, for your time. You know, quite often we kind of sit here and discuss questions, but we had them as we went along, and we've had some wonderful comments which everyone can see, and you know, I personally echo those as well. It's amazing to have you on board, Suzie. So thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to say that Ian pointed out that the link that I shared is actually the link to this Zoom call, not the newsletter, which won't actually help you get onto my newsletter. So I've shared it again. I've just popped it in again. Sorry about that. There, that's my subscribe page for my newsletter for anyone that would like to sign up. But just checking if there's any more comments. Just mainly thank yous, very inspiring session, and good reminder that you are enough and to stop searching for the perfect outcome. Absolutely great. How can I be added to your my weekly chat? Do you mean the webinar, Michelle? If you're in the group, then Paul will send out a notification each week with a link to the webinar. Ian said thanks and have subscribed. That's great. There's the link again last time for anyone that wants to subscribe. But lastly, as always, thank you thank you to everyone who has taken time out of their day. I appreciate everyone here. I want you to all know that you're enough, that we are all enough, and so thank you for showing up.
Couldn't agree more. What a lovely way to finish. Thanks everybody that's joined us. Thanks to Suzie. Subscribe to her newsletter to get much more of this every single week. And for those of you that haven't joined us on our groups, join us on our LinkedIn group and our Facebook group, which is just the Business Support Network. Very, very straightforward. So everyone have a great afternoon. Thanks for logging in. We really, really appreciate it. And thanks again, Suzie.
Thank you, everyone. Please spread the word so we can help inspire more people. Have an amazing day, and we will see you soon.
Cool. See you later.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.